know, as diehard Eagle fans, that this is not the best our best football. We're going to get it together. We're gonna work hard. We're gonna get it together. But every week, I see my man Seth. He's on TV, and we talk about it every morning on WIP. We talk about the same things week in and week out. The lack of coverage on the back end in the secondary, the lack of tackling. So with that being said, I'll let y'all figure out what's going to happen Monday, and I'll just let Seth start talking. But that's kind of where I'm at with it.
Well said. Well said. Well, I think you guys know me well enough that I'm not that. I'm not going to put it as eloquently as Hugh put it. First of all, thanks for having us out. I am a homer. You know, first and foremost, I'm an Eagles fan. So I do want them to, you know, fare well and do well. At the other end of the spectrum, I'm an analyst and I'm a realist. So I'm a homer realist. And Hugh said 6 weeks. I'd ask you to look at 17 weeks.
No, I agree.
You know, they've been, you know, we've been dealing with trying to figure out how to get it right for 17 weeks. So somebody asked me earlier, you know, hey, do they have a chance? You know, and I kind of said something. He was like, well, that don't sound too good. I'm like, all I got is for you is hope. You know, I'm hopeful that all of a sudden the switch is going to, you know, they're going to throw the switch and the light will come on and they'll do what they need to do. But I'm hopeful, but I'm not certain that they can get it done. If they haven't figured it out in 18 weeks, it's hard to believe that they're going to turn the corner. Now, like every other game, you know, the last 2 weeks they lost to two teams that they weren't supposed to lose to. You know, for whatever reason. You know, we all got our opinions about why they lost. But the same way that we expected them to win, you know, we can have that expectation that they can figure out a way to get it right. You know, there's a reason why they play the game, and they just might come out Monday night and shock the hell out of us. You know, hopefully that's what happens. But to be honest, I'm hopeful, but I'm not overly optimistic, is really what I'm trying to say. So we'll see. People keep asking me. I get texts, I get tweets, I get inbox messages, and you know, I do all of these media things, and you know, everybody's question is the same, and my response has been the same. And I don't like to have to cover my team, you know, and have that kind of attitude. But I got to be real. You know, you guys don't want me to lie to you. You want me to tell you the truth. You know, and I don't know, dog. You want me to lie?
These cats, you know, like they like to be lied to.
So let me say this. Let me say this. I tried to tell the truth through the first 11 games of the season, and a lot of y'all beat me up. Oh, shut up. They're 10-1. Okay, right? And then all of a sudden, now look at where we are. So I'm sure the guy in the back that raised his hand, you want me to tell you the truth, don't you? You don't want me to tell you the truth. All right. All right. I'm sorry, I can't lie to you, man. Because then you'll come back and hold me accountable for lying to you. Yeah, see? All right. So with that out the way, let's open up the floor to some questions, because I'm pretty sure there's some things you guys want to know. The gentleman right there raised his hand.
For me personally, I don't understand, and I'm pretty sure I've heard Seth talk about this. The being tired, like I can't wrap my mind around that. You know, Seth was a little bit before me, but we both played in an era where, you know, you never wanted anybody that was behind you to play. And in this era, there's a lot of two-platooning and things of that nature. But the bottom line is this: you're an NFL football player. You get paid millions of dollars to be prepared to play on Sunday, and for the the scenario or the whole story to be that these guys are tired, it's just beyond me now. There's something to that when you talk about the way that the secondary's been playing and the fact that they play 5 to 10 yards off the ball. That might have something to do with them not being able to get to the quarterback. But the fact that you're tired in the 17-game season, here's a stat, and I'm not a stat guy, but when you talk about the percentage of plays that the Eagles defense has played compared to, say, the Baltimore Ravens, it's like a percentage point more that the Ravens played, I think, a little bit more defense than the Eagles have played. They're the number 1 seed in the AFC. So miss me with that excuse about being tired and playing a lot of defense. It's about that want to. And right now, for whatever reason, I don't think this team is playing with the desire that you need to play with in order to be successful.
Well, Hugh decided to take that side of the question. I know a lot of you guys didn't hear it, but he talked about the expectation of the defensive line, even with, the lack of talent at the linebacker and the safety position. I think one of the main reasons why they're struggling is because all 3 units have to be tied together. Hugh just talked about it. When you cover well, then that means, you're going to get pressure on the quarterback. And when you're rushing well, that helps out in coverage. Right now, that connection is fractured, along with being fractured at the linebacker position because they can't stop the run, primarily, in my opinion, not because of the defensive line so much as it is because of the linebackers. Because I'm biased. To me, the linebacker is the most important position on the field, on the defensive side of the ball. And I'll tell you why. Because we're the hybrid. We're the only position on the field that has to be tied to the defensive line to play the run and tied to the secondary in order to play the pass. We got to be communicating with those guys, and we got to be communicating with the guys behind us. And when you don't have that connection, there's a problem. The linebackers don't know where to fit. They don't even look to me like they can decipher where the run is going when the ball is snapped. So if that's the case, especially when they're in their 4-man line, the 2 tackles are being doubled on every single play. Now, we expect for the guys that we have to dominate those positions, but think about it, okay? You got guys down there that are like 290 to 300 pounds, but when they're double teamed, that's 600 pounds laying on you, play after play after play. Now, if the linebackers fit the way that they're supposed to, now you can pull those guys off of those double teams and everybody could get where they need to and you can stop the run. But because we're so anemic at the linebacker position, we can't stop anybody in the run. When it comes to the pass, we're so afraid to give up the big plays playing so far off the ball that quarterbacks are looking out and saying, well, the cornerbacks are 10 yards off the ball. We don't need but 5 yards to get a first down. I'll just throw a quick out route. And they're not only...
Whoa, man down. You all right, bro? You good?
I told you not to play 10 yards off. So even the most average quarterback can pick that up. So until they get up and start challenging people at the line of scrimmage, taking up some of the space, forcing quarterbacks to make tough throws, it's going to continue to be difficult for the defensive line to get there. That's just a fact. It's a fact. Okay? Who else? Hold on one second. She raised her hand. I like that.
Why are you wearing blue instead of green?
She wants to know why I'm wearing blue instead of green. You didn't ask him that.
I knew you was, why did I know I was coming to me next? Like, young lady, I'll answer the question for me personally. I feel like, I have to, being an analyst and being a former player, sometimes I have to be neutral because I don't want to be perceived as a homer. Even though sometimes I am a homer, I don't want to be perceived as a homer. I understand you saying playoffs. I heard somebody say playoffs. Playoff game ain't till Monday. It's Thursday. I ain't got to dress in Eagles green every day. I guarantee you, if you didn't know we were coming here, you wouldn't have had on Eagles green. Whoever said that. So miss me with all that. Thank you very much, sir. So don't try to come at me sideways on a Thursday talking about why I ain't got on green. The only reason you got on green because you knew we were coming. Don't even try.
Why am I wearing blue? Young lady, your toy is blue. I just wanted to match your toy.
Oh, look at that. Look at you.
Oh, she smiled though. Okay, my man. No. Almost made me choke. His question was, do I think that Nakobe Dean will be an answer for the Eagles? You know, I think that there's a reason why he's been injured so much this year. Listen, he played in a system down in Georgia where he had the two big boys in front of him. They ate up the center and the two guards, and all he had to do was run to the football and make tackles. The Eagles don't play that style of defense. They do play a lot of five-man, which would allow him to do that. But when I watch him on the field, he looks like a little kid amongst grown men. And I think that he's going to continue to get injured over time. And I don't see him elevating and getting to where meeting those expectations that we had. That's just my opinion. I could be wrong, and I hope I'm wrong, you know. But, you know, I'm the type of guy that, you know, for me it's about the eye test. And even when he is healthy and he's on the field, like after the first injury and he came back, I think that first game he played, he had 12 tackles, and everybody's like, oh, you know, look, you know. But he made all them tackles like 5, 10 yards down the field. Linebackers aren't supposed to play like that. I mean, get up in there and make a tackle for 1 yard. You know, make a tackle for a loss. You know, that's the way that's supposed to play out. But I didn't see that. I saw him making tackles 4 or 5 yards down the field, and that was a red light for me. Red light. Yes. Her question is, what about training camp, and what's our thoughts about the guys not doing a lot of work in training camp and not playing in the preseason? I'm gonna let you have the lion's share of this, because if I get started on it, we might be here for another hour.
You know, we played in a different era where, you know, what was it, we played more the third preseason game, but we played a lot in the preseason. I think the verdict is still out on all of that, because you have a lot of teams in the NFL that don't play in the preseason, but they practice differently. I don't know how the Eagles practice, so I don't want to get off into the practice and all the other stuff, because I don't know what that looks like. But there are examples of teams that didn't play in the preseason that are doing well. I think part of that has to do with the way that they practice. But to answer your question, it's to keep guys fresh. Just try to keep them as healthy as possible. It's a whole lot different, the way that they play nowadays, as opposed to the way that we used to play. As far as like run fits are concerned, the way that they practice 9-on-7. 9-on-7 for us was a huge deal, because that's where you got your run fits. That's where, you know, you built your mentality as a football team. Because like it was 9-on-7, and it was that thigh was being administered on a regular. So it's different nowadays. So I guess the philosophy is you want to keep guys healthier, and I think that the teams that are having more success have a different style in the way that they practice that allows them to get everything that they need, that they used to get when they used to have to play in the preseason games.
See, I'm really old school in my thinking. I know for a fact that the body has to be galvanized and calloused for the season. So your season is over in January, February if you're lucky, and you don't really start doing anything of substance, especially hitting, until you get to training camp. So how are you going to harden your body for a game that requires it to be hardened? You do that in practice, and you do it in preseason. Now, that's one theory. Look at all the injuries that we've had all season. So you can't protect the player from getting injured in practice or preseason any more than you can during the game, because what normally happens, they sit them and rest them through preseason and training camp. They don't really hit in training camp. They don't really tackle full speed in training camp. And I mean, I think you can get some tackling work done without having to go full speed and getting somebody hurt. But, you know, I was at a practice one time, and they got this big orange donut, you know, and what they do is they roll the donut on the ground, and the guys go dive and they tackle the donut. I mean, this donut's got to be like 8 feet tall. Big hole in the middle. It literally looks like a big donut. And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking to myself, how many damn football players I know that look like that donut? So it really makes no sense the way that they practice, and you're asking for trouble. But because so many teams have made the decision that this is the way that you do it, if other teams don't do it that way and you get a major player hurt, then the media is going to crucify you for doing it a different way. Now, the most physical of teams, the Baltimore Ravens, San Francisco 49ers, the Cleveland Browns, I can assure you that they don't practice that way. Javon Hargrave even came out this week and talked about the fact of how much harder it is during practice in San Francisco than it is in Philadelphia, okay? He likened it to practice out there is like the Miami Heat. Practice over here is like the Golden State Warriors, you know? So it's just philosophies. They're going to do what they want to do, how they want to do it. I think it's wrong, you know, because me as a player, I never wanted to go through the preseason and not play, because I know when we go from preseason to regular season, the intensity is going to go up. So I got to be prepared for that uptick in intensity. Just like now the regular season is over, you're getting into the playoffs, the intensity is going to go up even a little bit more. And by the time you go through the entire playoffs and you get to the Super Bowl, it's like completely off the charts. You never ever experience that kind of intensity any other time of the year. So if you don't incrementally prepare yourself for the season, now you're asking guys to go out and do things that you haven't prepared them really to do. So that's my take on it. Yes, sir.
I'm not pointing the finger at one certain person, but does coaching come into this?
Say it again.
Does coaching come into this? I'm not pointing my finger at one certain person.
Well, I think it's, you want to talk, are you talking about the Eagles?
Yeah.
No, that's organizational philosophy. I don't think the coaches really have. Now listen, the coaches, because of the collective bargaining agreement, the coaches' hands are kind of tied, because you only get, during the regular season, you only get 12 practices where you can actually hit. And I don't know what the number is in training camp, but I also believe that these are philosophical beliefs that this is the way that you practice, because, you know, the Eagles have got data analytics, they've got, you know, sports science, they've got all these different things that wasn't around when we played, you know. It's like the running backs. Most of our running backs in the game, they very rarely get more than 15 to 16 carries in a game. It's my belief that the analytics say the more carries they get over 16, the higher the probability of injury for them. So they try to limit it. Where you get some running backs, they get 25, 20, 25 carries, you know, in a football game. Like, you'll see DeAndre Swift get like 10 to 12 carries in the first half, and then Kenneth Gainwell would get 10 to 12 in the second half, you know. So they try to keep him within that range, because I think the analytics really says that the probability of injury goes up substantially once they, you know, exceed that number.
On that point, don't you think that your player, you only have, if you only get 10 carries, if you're getting a feel for that game or that particular game, don't you think it would be better to let him run? In your opinion, I mean.
Well, listen, I view the thing the way that you view it. You know, it was always said that, you know, you had to get a running back in a rhythm. He had to get into
Get him lathered up.
Yeah, I mean, now that whole theory's gone out the window, because keeping them healthy is more important than anything else. And I'll give you two examples of where they kind of brushed that to the side, and that was in week 2 and week 3 of the season, because they started off and they could not get their passing game on track. So they realized they had to implement the run game. So I believe it was, what was the second game of the season? Minnesota.
Yeah, they got the running game going.
Yes, in Minnesota. So they played Minnesota the second game of the season. They had 48 carries for 259 yards. Then they come back the next week against Tampa, and they had 40 carries for 205 yards. And then once the passing game started getting on track, because now you had the run game to balance it out, the run game all of a sudden became an afterthought. And when you watch this team, they struggle through the first half, they come out in the second half, they run the ball like crazy. The minute they start getting some balance to their offense and everything is operating properly, then they fall in love with the pass all over again and forget to run. They don't want to run the football. They just don't want to do it. They want to throw the football, all right?
What is your favorite moment playing in the Eagles?
What's your favorite moment playing for the Eagles, man?
My favorite moment?
Super Bowl.
Well, we lost, so.
Hey, at least you got there while you was an Eagle.
At least I got there. I would say probably one of the first playoff games that I've ever played in, because I came from New York. I played for the Jets first, and I would say one of those first playoff games. The atmosphere here in the city, that was phenomenal, and I would say that. But the first playoff game that I ever played in.
There's a lot for me. I just, it's hard to pick one. Hard to pick just one. Maybe probably the body bag game. You were just a thought back then. But ask your parents to pull it up on YouTube. It was special. Go ahead, man. Okay, so you got two questions. The first one I already forgot.
You talking about DeAndre Swift? I think you said, are we using him correctly in the running game?
Right. So DeAndre Swift, are they using him effectively in the backfield? And secondary-wise, what would we have done differently? Yeah? As far as the secondary was concerned last year. Go ahead, Hugh.
What you mean, like if CJ, GJ, and had a chance to be here and all that other stuff, CJ Gardner-Johnson? I thought, like, when I got here, a lot of people were complaining about the lack of pressure or the lack of blitzing. And I didn't have enough information to actually have an opinion about that because I was in Atlanta at the time. But, you know, being a guy that has played the game, my first thought was, if you're not blitzing a lot, that means you don't really have that much faith in your corners, because in order to blitz, you got to lock some people up and be able to let your pass rush get there. You talk about a team that has over 70 sacks. It was one of those things where I kind of looked at it and was like, well, you probably don't trust your secondary. As far as keeping certain guys, I think that in the NFL, and this is just the trend, there's a lot of positions that have been devalued, especially when it comes to the Philadelphia Eagles. The one thing that I've noticed all year long, and I don't know if you've noticed it, Seth, that the teams that we have the most trouble with are the teams that have really good linebackers. Like that we have really good linebacker play. To that point you were making earlier where you talk about that hybrid player that can play the run game and stop the run, but can also drop back in coverage and be a factor in the passing game. You look at the games that we lost, the teams that we lost to had some really good linebackers. We don't value those positions. And in turn, we don't really value the corner position and what they bring to the table. The one thing that I noticed playing, and the people that were complaining about, because people are complaining about the lack of pass rush. It's kind of hard to pass rush when your corners are playing 10 yards off the ball and the quarterback is back there just playing pitch and catch. It's also kind of hard to play the run or stop the run when you don't have that much run support. The one thing that I noticed when you put the young corners back in there, Ricks and Keely Ringo, is that the run support got a little bit better and the physicality on the back end got a little bit better. But, you know, it's one of those things where when you talk about what you're talking about, it's just I don't think the Eagles value those positions as much as they need to in this day and age in the NFL.
I will always die on the hill of, you know, them not running the ball enough and not using DeAndre Swift enough. I mean, the kid still got 1,000 yards rushing, and I don't feel like they use him enough. In my opinion, the quarterback's best friend is a running back, because if he's running the ball effectively, it opens up the rest of the playbook. And when you have a guy that's such a big hit, you know, type player like he is, I thought all year they've underutilized. You remember at the beginning of the year they started off with Gainwell as a starter. He was like in the doghouse, and everybody was wondering what the heck is going on. Then Gainwell got hurt in week 1, and he got the start in week 2 and just exploded for like 180 yards rushing.
Don't you think he should have been used more in the passing game, though?
Absolutely.
Because that's kind of his skill set. He put me in the mind of like a Brian Westbrook. He's not really a running between the tackles kind of guy to me.
See, now you open up a whole nother can of worms. Because philosophically, that's not what the Eagles want to do. I mean, how many times, like now, and I know you watch the game like I watch it. I don't watch it for the entertainment value. I'm not watching it trying to follow the football. I watch it from an analytics standpoint. And when I see Jalen Hurts drop back and he's got time in the pocket and nobody's open, to me, you got to know where your check down is.
And throw it to the check.
Yes. But what they want to do philosophically is they want to push the ball 15 to 20 yards plus down the field. So that's why he's holding on to the ball, because philosophically that's what they want to do. Where you can just take a guy like DeAndre Swift, check him out of the backfield, throw on the ball. You can get 4, 5, 6 yards anytime that you want it before the defense actually reacts, especially if they're in zone. But they're not interested in moving the chains. They're interested in chunk plays. And that's what they got away with it last year, is biting them in the behind this year. Follow up. So you want me to call blitzes, you have to earn the right to do that. How do you earn the right to do that? You stop the run and you make the offense one-dimensional. And now when we got them in a position where we can predict what they're doing, now we can come after them. Well, the running game is the same way. A passing game is the same way. If we run the ball efficiently, and now you're forcing the defense to drop an extra guy in the box every once in a while, and you're hitting your little check downs for 4 or 5 yards and you're moving the sticks, now when you got the team down, you're going to force the defense to do some things that they don't really want to do. They got to start taking some chances to get back in the game. Now you take your shot down the field.
Yeah, you know what? I used to always equate the game of football to checkers. Chess.
I'm glad that.
No, because you know how it is. Like, there's a lot of things. Like say we all remember the old school Pittsburgh Steelers. Remember playing against the Pittsburgh Steelers when they had Jerome Bettis, and I remember playing a game against them in Pittsburgh where he had like negative 10 yards rushing in the first half. And they just kept running the football. What that inadvertently did, like running the ball and being committed to the run, it takes time. You have to be committed to it because it's a patient game. But in the second half, he rushed for like 150 yards because the running game takes its toll. And off of the running game, a lot of times it sets up everything else. I talk about a lot of times about Peyton Manning and the play action that they ran with Edgerrin James. Everything came off of that play action look. Even when they threw the ball, they would show play action, and then they would throw the ball. But what it inadvertently made you do is take that safety out of the back, and you had to put him in the box. That's that extra man that Seth is talking about. That then makes it easier for you to throw football. This team, for whatever reason, when I watch them, it feels like the offense is never fluid. It's kind of like scatter shot. Perfect example I give is last week. We're playing the Giants, and we ran the ball first quarter, first series. Ran the ball like twice, and Gainwell had like 2 big chunk plays. And then immediately right after that, off of those 2 chunk plays, we drop back and try to heave it into the end zone. That's not even though you've had success running the football with those 2 plays, you've done nothing for a defense to commit to the run, in my opinion, to make that a viable option to throw the ball down the field. We don't do that. We don't play like that. We just throw stuff against the wall and hope it sticks.
Hey, 59, where the cookies at, man? Absolutely, I want 2. My man back there with the hat on.
I don't have a problem with you. I know a lot of people see, and I say this all the time.
You had to say that, didn't you?
No, but here's the thing. I don't care how many times I tell this story. people want to tell the story the way that they want to tell it. It did not happen in the locker room the way that you remember it. And I can say that to this day, and you're still going to run out and tell the story the way that you want to tell it. We didn't have a fight. We had a misunderstanding. But to this day, it's still being told like, oh, T.O. kicked Hugh's ass or Hugh kicked Hugh. It didn't happen like that, man. But to answer your question,
who's your favorite player, man?
Oh yeah, I went off on a tangent.
Listen, y'all, it's past my bedtime. Y'all, look, this is what, when you have me out past like close to 8 o'clock, this is exactly what you're gonna get.
It's past my bedtime. My favorite teammate was Hollis Thomas. And the reason why, like, when we used to go to training camp, y'all got to read between the lines on these stories that I'm about to tell because we got kids in the room. But Hollis, when we used to stay in the pods, the little pods or whatever. So Hollis had like a box of stuff that he used to bring of the adult nature to training camp all the time. And he used to be like, hey man, I got these magazines in case you need any. Nah, dog, I'm good. Like that was Hollis. And to this day, like the messages that I get from Hollis, I cannot open them up at work. To this day. And it's been sometimes where Hollis has sent me a text and I open it up at work and I'm like, damn it, I shouldn't have did that. Because now I'm worried about who's looking over my shoulder.
I can promise you my story is not that good. So Clyde Simmons and I were roommates my entire, bring me them cookies, man. We were roommates.
Why are you trying to give me cookies and Seth look up here looking like
Clyde Simmons and I were roommates. So we both played here, came in, were drafted in the same draft class, and we both left and went to Arizona the same year. We're roommates on the road and lived together our rookie year, those full 8 years, and then we went to Arizona. We went to Arizona together, and I played 3 years there. He played 2 years. Those 2 years we were roommates, as well. So we were really close. Me and him, and obviously, Jerome Brown, we were like the Three Musketeers for sure. All right? Big man right there. I guess his question is, as guys that are now in the media opposed to being players, and how the media perceive and we as media guys perceives the off the field distractions for the current players in relation to how it was for us, correct? It's hard for me to understand off the field distractions, because I didn't come in the league as a first round draft pick. I came in the league as an 8th round draft pick. So football was very, very serious for me, because I knew that as an 8th round draft pick, and having been cut, my rookie year and missed the first 2 games of the season, I had a different perspective. So I was very businesslike. My family knew by the time I got to Friday, don't even mess with me. Don't call me, don't ask me for nothing, because I'm starting to lock in on Friday night. So I don't understand the off the field distractions that these guys go through. There's 52 weeks in a year. For me to make it to the NFL was the culmination of a dream that I held ever since I was 10, 11 years old. So I wasn't gonna let anything get in the way of, whatever time I had to play. So 52 weeks out of the year, and you got 16, 17 weeks to do what you love to do, and you get paid a king's ransom to do it. I don't understand distractions, because whatever it is that you want to do, you can reserve that and keep that on the sidelines until the season is over, because you got 35 weeks to do whatever the heck you want to do. But 17 weeks, no, I'm locked in. I'm focusing on trying to win as many games as I can and trying to get to the Super Bowl. And I'm also not going to let anything mess up my money and my position because I know how hard it was for me to get to where I had to get to.
As defensive players, is there any credence to Dan Orlovsky saying the offensive line is giving up clues that it's going to be a run or pass? And if so, as respected as Coach Stalin is, why would he allow that to happen?
That is, I mean, I like Dan. That is not as egregious as it sounds, because we're always looking for tendencies, like a hand placement or the white of the knuckles. Like if you could tell the pressure that the offensive lineman is putting on his hand, whether or not it's run or pass. That's not as egregious as it's made out to be. You're always looking for tendencies. I remember playing with Trot. Trot would watch so much film that he would come back and he would tell us that he would say, yo, man, I know when they're passing, I know when they're throwing the ball, because the center wiggles his booty a little bit if he does this or whatever, or he does a little wiggle. No, but that's what you look for. You watch film so much that you always look for a tail, different formations, different ways that the quarterback goes in his cadence, because it's like playing poker, man. You're looking for that poker face. So when you hear about guys say, oh, man, they're giving away the plays, or the plays are, that is not as egregious as it's made out to be, because there are certain teams that they have certain formations, and they run so many plays out of that formation. So you can narrow it down to potentially what they're going to run. But you still have to stop that play. It's called execution. People get caught up in, talking about where they're predictable and tendencies and things like that. Yes, every team has tendencies, but you have to stop the execution of that play. So I don't read too much in that, or it's not that egregious when you hear people talk about, oh, well, they got tails. It's not that big.
I'll say this: the offensive linemen have gotten significantly bigger today than when I played. If a guy was like 300 pounds back in our day, he was a massive man. Now there were a few out there, but as they've gotten bigger, 315, 320, 330, 340, think about it. It's a lot harder for them to get down the three-point stance and the ball is snapped, especially against the pass, and be able to get that hand off the ground and be able to kick. So invariably what you're seeing is a lot of offensive linemen are playing, in a two-point stance. So back in the day, if tackles would do that, that was a dead giveaway. He's trying to get back because he's scared he's going to get beat, So I don't know. I kind of agree with Hugh. That's kind of the truth of the matter.
Yeah, you still got to beat him, though, because I've seen, like, talk about Lane Johnson. It's a pass when you see his stance. Still got to get around him. I mean, that ain't an easy task. So yeah, it's still hard to do.
So I got a 2-point question. The first part is there any players on the Eagles, either now or formerly, that you would have liked to have played with? And are there any opponents that you would have liked to have been on the field against?
Opponents against?
Yes.
I wouldn't mind playing against Deebo Samuel.
Yeah.
Like, he got a lot of mouth, man. He got a big old mouth, man. He got a lot of mouth, man.
Yeah, but I want the rules to be like they were when we played.
Yeah, that's a little different.
Yeah, you come running your behind across that middle.
Yeah,
if you want to.
You got called a decleater.
We gonna check.
Medic!
I hate that commercial, man. I hate that commercial. Oh my gosh, man. I think when I think back about our defense, I try to think sometime of players who would have fit in our defense. I think Brian Dawkins would have been awesome in our defense. It would have been awesome in our defense because his mentality and the way he played, matched, the way that we played. It would have been awesome to play with him.
Forgot kids in here. A female dog. I called him a female dog, and he proceeded to beat me like a drum all the way down the field, and they scored. Cause I told him, you were my female dog, and he got hot. So, but yeah, like I was probably the one that talked the most trash when I played. That was me. Yes, ma'am.
Is there any other sports that you like?
That I like? I like kickball. I like is video games a sport? She's looking at me like, are you nuts? No, it's not. Growing up, I didn't play any other sport. I tried to play basketball one time, and I went for a layup and missed. Never did that again. So football was really the only sport that I played because I started out as a linebacker, like Seth. And they used to ask me to drop into coverage all the time. And I was like, well, hell, why am I dropping into coverage when I could just go get the dude with the ball and be done with it? And so that's how I became a defensive end. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
What do you think of the tush push?
I don't have a problem with it. I mean, it's one of those things where I know that Peter King called it the bastardization of football. I mean, it's like when you talk about, when I think of the Philadelphia Eagles this year, and you think about NFL teams as a whole, and you say, what is their mentality or what is their identity? Unfortunately for us, the tush push is our identity. I wish it was something else, but right now we are known for the tush push. Not scoring a whole lot of points in the last few weeks, but we're definitely known for the tush push.
I tell you what, I think that there are some biases when it comes to Philadelphia. Because if you really look and you go back, New England and Tom Brady used to do that all the time. All the time. And his percentage of third and one and fourth and one conversions was extremely high too. Like, I've seen video of it. So now that the Eagles are doing it, and they're doing it more often and they're so successful at it, you know, the media bias is in my mind, you know, it's against the Eagles. And why? Why? I mean, it's legal for everybody to do it, but no one can do it as efficiently or as effective as we can. So you want to abolish it. Stop it. My man. Jameis?
You mean for being in victory formation and scoring? Come on, dog. That is the worst thing you could possibly do. The Falcons basically quit. I mean, not quit. The game was over. That's almost like being in a fight and you say, okay, I'm done fighting. Then you slap somebody across the lips right after they told you they were done. I hear you. Then who else did that? Floyd Mayweather did somebody like that. Knocked his tooth out one time, didn't he? You're right about protecting yourself, but it's an unwritten rule in the NFL. When you go into victory formation, man, it's a wrap. The game is over.
Buddy Ryan somewhere cheering. We did that on more than one occasion, right there. The difference between Jalen and the blitz? Well, I think last year, see, and this is the difference, you know, when you talk about from year to year. There's always going to be changes. You know, so the Eagles go to the Super Bowl last year, they come 3 points short. The rest of the NFC and the rest of the NFL is looking at this explosive offense, and they're spending 7 months trying to figure out how to slow it down and how to stop it. And there's some tells in you when you got 7 months to study an offense. There's some certain things that you kind of figure out. Okay, so the Eagles had great success last year in blitz situations, taking shots down the field. Again, that ties into their philosophy. This year, teams are playing them differently, and they're bringing the extra guy that's unaccounted for. And instead of them having hot routes and sight adjustments, what they're doing is they're asking Jalen to make the free runner miss and still make a big play down the field. So I think the difference is that, you know, believe it or not, San Francisco said, hey, you know, I hope everybody else uses the blueprint that we've created. Now, San Francisco, when they came in here and beat us, they didn't necessarily blitz, but they got a front four that can get pressure as good as anybody. But other teams who don't have those types of players realize that if we can get pressure, they don't really sight adjust their routes, or they don't have hot routes or break routes off. The minute that they see blitz, they're thinking shots down the field. You see it all the time. I mean, how many times in the last 2 weeks have Jalen Hurts in a blitz situation overthrown one of his wide receivers wide right or wide left on the sideline? Because that is their philosophy. You know, and to me, that's the big difference. You know, again, you got to earn the right for those shots. And there are times, Hugh, I'm looking at film and I see Dallas lined up detached, so he's in the slot. A guy over him comes on a blitz. The safety's in the hole. Now he got to drop down. He's trying to disguise. They're trying to disguise cover one with a single high safety. So he's dropping down late to pick up Dallas, and Dallas is running a go route up the seam, running to the coverage. And I'm like, if you just run 5 yards and stop and turn around, now you one-on-one with a guy that's running at you with a two-way go. And if you make him miss, it's a touchdown. It's a touchdown. Because everybody else is running off. So my thing is, I get paid to be an analyst. I watch these games and I analyze what I see. These coaches spend 12, 15 hours a day at the facility. If I can see that, you mean to tell me that the guys get paid millions of dollars to do it, can't figure it out and don't see it? They keep doing the same thing week after week, and they expect that something's going to change. It's not going to change.
We have time for one more question, all right, guys? One more, then we're going to do some raffles.
So what you just say, so there's been a drop off from James played last year to this year. Is that all attributed to what you just said, or is there more to that?
I think it's a combination of things. I think their lack of commitment to the running game is getting them in trouble. I don't think the offense has the creativity that it had last year, because obviously they've taken the RPO and the read option out because they want to protect him, and he got hurt early, okay? So then it makes me wonder, how extensive is your playbook if you don't have anything else? See, my hope this year for Jalen was that he would become more of a better pocket passer.
Now, I'm not like that early on that was going to be the case.
Yeah, he did. And I'm not saying totally remove him from running the football, but they put him in shrink wrap, and they've got him in protective mode. So he's no longer a threat to run the football unless he's out of the pocket, or they call him one of these, quarterback sweeps that very rarely works, But it just leads me to believe that, creatively, they're not coming up with a whole lot of different things. Defenses are playing them differently. They've got a plan for them. And because your playbook has shrunk, now defensive coordinators and players from week to week have a lot less to prepare for. There's a lot less guessing on their part. And to Hugh's point, they're calling out plays when we line up because they know what's coming, because there's only a handful of plays by formation and by motion. I was watching a game a couple of weeks ago, and they sent Devontae Smith in motion like 6 times, and every single time they sent him in motion, they ran the football. I'm like, come on, man, really? Pull it one time and throw it to him in the flat. They're not even covering him, But again, if I can see stuff like that, you tell me why the coaches aren't picking up on stuff like that. All right, guys, thanks for your questions. Appreciate it.
We're giving away stuff.
I just wanted to thank everyone for coming out, and of course thank you, Douglas and Seth Joyner, for joining us.